Okay, yeah, I know that whole conversation. If you want to recap that today,
Well,
I would be happy to talk about it.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to
Because
figure
it's an
out.
important...
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
That's an important piece of this journey, I think, for you, especially if you don't remember it.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kim Duke, and I am married to an alcoholic addict.
Hi, Kim. My name is Chris, and I am an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Chris.
And today we have
We have a crossover podcast today.
yeah, it's very close friend to our family, and over the last year and a half, it's just gotten better, and watching this individual grow and become more confident and seeing that there's so much more to them than just bits has been such a motivating thing, because it reminds you that there's a world outside of comedy. There was a lot of comics that I would meet where it was just comedy all the time, and the conversations were more or less like, wouldn't it be funny if, and where could I insert a bit type of thing. And Alex was really the first comic friend that, like, you just reminded me that there's more out there than just the stand-up scene. So
That was very nice of you, Chris. Thank you for saying that.
well, I love you.
I love you too, man. With my whole heart. And I'm proud of you too. I mean, the last 6 months has been a fucking hell of a journey for you. And I got to tell you, man, you are immeasurably better from the perspective of those around you than you were at the time when you were
Heavily in use.
Yeah. And part of what I noticed, especially when you were really using a lot, was like, not only does it affect the rest of your life, it's like it's compounding, you know? So like it's like you would go to bed feeling shitty about yourself, and you would wake up feeling worse about yourself, and it just got worse and worse. And like, it was like watching your friend drain out from his shell through his feet. Like, every time I saw you, you know, it was like it was less of you when it was getting really bad. It was like less of the you that I knew and love every time I saw you. And it was like, it's not like I dreaded seeing you. It was like I was worried to see you, because it was like, damn it, is he going to be okay today? You know? And some days you'd get a glimpse and you'd be like, fuck yeah, Chris is back to Chris. And then it just, you know. So to see you now, always you, always on. Oh, proud dad, loving husband, terrific friend, and always all those things. But now, someone who I believe is genuinely proud of themselves too. Like, you include yourself in the pride discussion. You have a lot to be proud of. You've done a lot.
Wow, thank you, man.
Yeah.
And it's it's rough, because there were resentments that I created for myself, like these kind of even though I would come out and say, like, if I'm your friend, then I want you to know that if you need something, then I'm here for you. Like, and I try to do that with people. And even though I had done that, I started to create these like mini struggles that weren't even like existent. Like, the relationship from the outside looks totally normal, but for some reason I'm going, well, why does Alex get to go home and be sad or be anxious or any of these things? And I have to do this, and then I have to go home and do the dad stuff. Mm-hmm. And then in the morning I have to, like, I created these weird, and it wasn't just you, obviously, but
I get what you're saying though.
And so
it was like your way of identifying that you had an issue was by resenting those who could cope with their issues or had the space and the time to cope with their issues. And you were creating in your head a scenario in which the world had no time for Chris and his problems, and your world had no time for you and your problems. And you just had to stick to the fucking schedule, and you had to do all the stuff you had to do to make sure your family's lives were continuing to go on as they saw it, or imagined them being, and your relationship with Kim had to just be like, there was no time for Chris to,
You're exactly right, by the way.
Not to interrupt myself, because I'm going to put a pin in that. To an extent, you're kind of right. But it doesn't stem from outside sources. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like you built that problem.
Well, yeah, right, yes.
By whether you created, whether the external sources were where the anxiety was coming from or not, it was like your pain could have been alleviated. But it was like, to me, and this was, I got to be honest with you, I was so frustrated with you as it got worse and worse, because, like, especially when I would try, like, actively try to be like, hey, man, I am here to talk to you whenever you want to talk. And you would be like, nah, man, like, I'm good. And I'm like, you fucking asshole, you are not good. I know you're not good.
Yeah.
And I would tell you that, like, on the phone, like, dude, that's bullshit. I know you're not doing well.
Yeah.
And you would say, like, dude, I'm fine. Like, I don't. And then when I would start to press you on it, you would either, like, divert the conversation, or you would, it was almost like purely out of defense, like, you would, like, curl up more. It was like the shell would, like, harden, It's like, no, I don't need your help. But you would also, like, let out little blips and noises about things that were going shitty. And it was always like, you would point at the external things, like, none of these things are letting me be okay.
Oh.
Or none of these things are open to me being not okay.
Right.
So I have to be okay. And then I would be like, but you're not okay. And then you would be like, but I have to be okay. And I'm like, I'm telling you right now, you don't have to be okay. Accept that you're not okay. And then let's talk about why you're not okay and how you can be better and what we can do to help you be better. And you'd be like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, hey, man, I was very mad. Mostly because it's like you would do the same for me, And it's like, if I saw myself, I see, in a way, it was like a mirror of me, It's like I don't like accepting people's help either.
Yeah. Well, and
especially
the weird thing was, like, I started to, like, at some points I would be, like, confused on top of it, because that shit historically, like, never bothers me. Like, opening up to friends and letting them know that we're here for them.
Yeah.
It's something that, like, I championed, and, like, it never, I mean, there's so many instances that, like, things could have gone poorly for myself or my family, because I am codependent in that sense, that, like, how lucky for this person that I came along, because now I'm going to fucking superhero it in. And
do you think maybe you had trouble, like,
but that's, like, so it upset me that the thing that I fucking love, like, that I think makes me who I am, now is pissing me off all the time.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing was, so it just, everything just was so fucking confusing.
Do you think you had a problem opening up because it meant there was more responsibility attached to it, and you already had so much responsibility in your life that it was even scarier to bring on the fact that some of the problems you were having were self-inflicted? Or
in the sense of, like, time management.
Okay.
There was literally no time to keep everything going. I didn't have time to actually, like, take a step back and try to fix anything, because, one, I didn't want to admit that there was anything that needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
Two, if I lose one thing, then everything else is going to fall apart for sure.
That you used to say that a lot.
Yep. So that's why when I quit Nordic like abruptly and then started to quit everything else, it was like I had driven that narrative that like, all right, you let one thing go, just fucking kamikaze the rest of this shit.
Yeah.
Get it the fuck out of here. And I would like patronizingly would call myself an addict. Well, I'm an addict, so I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
So I'm addicted to comedy. Oh, gotta get that out of there. I'm addicted to photography. So like, you know what I mean? Like
it was like a bratty version of like accepting the fact that you are.
Which I can never think of that word, but like I was patronizing to myself because it's like.
Because and like
sarcastic.
we had conversations where he's like, it's never going to be enough. I'm going to always want more. I'm going to always want more of these things, and I'm not going to get enough of it. So I have to just be done with it. Which,
like, in your eyes, you're like, okay, but what is stopping all of it do to help you anyway?
Yeah.
And I like when you're watching him like completely decompose.
That night that he quit everything, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
Like I was texting his dad like I know when Chris isn't doing well, and I knew something was going on more than what was going on. And his dad's like, no, I saw him. I talked to him. He seems like, he really just wants to focus on family and work and all that. And it's like, no, I've known Chris for ever. And obviously his dad has too, but Chris has always had some type of creative outlet. For him to have no creative outlet all of a sudden, that's what is terrifying.
Right. For sure. Well, and in your case too, you're watching like, That's like you said, he always had it. So you're like watching a piece of Chris just completely die. And then you have to be thinking, well, I don't want to speak for you, but like, how is that going to affect everything else?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and like in the beginning, like when we first started dating, it was rollerblading and snowboarding.
Excuse me. Aggressive inline. Keep going.
Sorry. Aggressive inline. So those were two big things. So when he had his back injury, he couldn't do those things. That's when he started going downhill, his one attempt, because of his back pain. So it's like, then he found comedy, thankfully, and podcasting and all these other things. So it's like, okay, that replaced that creative. He has a mind. He needs to be creating things.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, all these creative things he's done with, it's like...
Right. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. It's such a weird thing to reflect on, because it's like almost hard to even imagine that you of all people would have decided, I'm done with all this shit.
Yeah.
That was a very scary day.
Yeah. And a lot of people were reaching out, very like text messages from people like, what's going on?
There was within minutes of you like posting and being like, and saying to all of us, like, we're done, whatever. There was within minutes a group text of like 15 of us that are like, what the fuck's going on with Chris?
Yeah.
And I knew more than a lot of them knew.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say.
I know.
Because that's your story. So I had to be like, yeah, Chris isn't doing so great right now, guys. But like, all he needs from us is support and to be kind. And then people are like, we should put on a show for him, and we should, invite him, whatever. And I'm like, how about we go see Chris away from comedy to show him that we love him for being Chris, not for being a comedian.
See, and that's why, like, I hate to like put you on a pedestal and stuff, but
well, yeah, because I do not deserve it. Continue.
But that's I think like another reason why I've like latched on you more is because you are able to, like, when you started showing up to Nordic in like business attire.
Yeah.
I was like, oh fuck yeah, there's more out there. And like when we would have these conversations that had nothing to do with comedy, and just like that bringing me back down to earth in that way of just and the crazy thing is, just by being normal.
Yeah.
That all you were doing was what everybody else has to do outside of comedy. And yeah, man, I've never really said it like this, but there were a lot of people that were way more concerned with Nordic than they were with me. And which
I'm sure was extremely hurtful.
it just was fuel for the fire. I remember just being like, it made me say like, fuck that place 10 times more because I was like, oh, dude.
Yeah, a lot of people like, what's going to happen to the mic now?
Yeah.
And you're like, what's going to happen to me now? People like,
Yeah.
And that adds to what you were saying earlier is the resentment of like, if somebody else was going through this shit, I would be asking them, are they okay? You know? And then to see people be like, what's going on with the mic? You're like, what the fuck, man? Like, can somebody just ask me if I'm okay? Like, I just want you know what I mean? But I mean, did you want to talk about?
Yeah. So there had been a few times that I had tried to quit drinking. There was one time where I like tried to cut back, and then there was a time and a half where I tried to like actually stop. And one thing that I would do when Kim was at work, if she worked not overnights but worked like evening shift, because you wouldn't get home until like midnight or 12:30.
Yeah, a little after midnight. Yeah.
Like I would drink enough to be drunk, but not smell and not be like vomiting all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I would time it out so that I knew I would fall asleep like before you got home.
Yeah.
And that in those windows, especially if the kids weren't here, if they were staying at my folks for some reason, that was just, I turned into an ex-girlfriend hardcore and would just call people. Yeah, and I'm obviously, you know, come on.
I know. I know.
But like I just for some reason would call and not even just you, but like call people and that whole trauma bonding thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to make it seem like, hey, remember how you're like super dark and there's all these things that people don't know about you? Well, check out all the shit that people don't know about me. And like instead of like actually dealing with it, I was like just being like, look, just let me vomit for a while and then everything will be fine in the morning.
Yeah.
But there's one particular time, I mean, you unfortunately were on the other line of like the worst part of it, but there's a night that I don't completely remember the conversation, and I just remember you trying to like bring me back down, and I just was like trying to convince you that like I was unique in my struggles or something like that.
Yeah. And then you hung up on me.
Oh.
Yeah. You were pissed.
Really?
Yeah. You were really not happy with me.
Jesus.
And it wasn't like, you weren't like angry. You were just like, dude, I gotta go. And I was like, all right, man. Like, I'm here to talk. If you want to keep talking. And you're like, nah, I'm gonna go. I'll talk to you later. And then you hung up. And I was like, okay. You were, and I guess maybe I'm speaking out of turn. I don't know if you were really unhappy with me or if the things I was saying were too much for you to take in that moment and you were just like, fuck, like I need to digest, you know, what he just said.
Oh, okay.
You know, it could be any one of those things. Like that reaction.
Let's assume that they're all of them.
Okay.
Because the fact that I don't.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
I mean, and it very much could be just that we talked about some really heavy stuff and that conversation gave you a lot to think about, and adding on to that with more metaphors and more, hey, Chris, you're not that, not to take away from your current. I remember saying that exactly. Like, Chris, I don't want to discount what you're going through, but you're not alone. And that's important to know. There are people going through similar issues all over the world, myself included. And that was when you were saying, like, you know, you kept trying to like individualize your issues.
Oh.
And I think in doing that, you like, it felt to me like when you would say stuff like, and this is kind of like some of the things that I was talking about, you know, it's like, I'm just going to tell you, like you would say like, yeah, Kim expects way too much of me. And Kim expects me to like, not just like work, but like also to like, you know, be a dad all the time and like also like not and be like there for her when she has problems and like be there for the kids when they have problems. But like I can't like let my guard down and tell anyone that like I'm having problems, because then like if dad's having problems, then like everything's going to fall apart. So I just have to like get my ass up and like go to bed or go to work, and I have to like suck it up at work, which and like, you know, like, and work sucks and like and then I had to come home and I had, you know, like immediately get ready to go to comedy, and then I had to go to comedy, and then after comedy, and it was like everything in your life, you like, in that moment were being like, nobody could possibly understand like all the things that I'm going through. And so it's not even worth trying to fix these problems, because nobody can peel back this onion kind of thing. And I'm like, well, let's talk about it, you know? And I distinctly remember on this phone call, you were like jubilant on the phone. Like you were like bubbly as all get out. You were giggly and like laughing or whatever. And I was like, hey dude, what's going on? You know? But this was also, I think, during a window of time that you were not supposed to be drinking.
Oh.
Because you had quit drinking. And this was like during that week or whatever.
Okay.
And this may be why you don't remember, because it was like a relapse moment where you just fucking drank.
Okay.
And so I said, like, have you been drinking, man? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, no. And I was like, you shouldn't have done that, dude. Like, you were doing so well. And you were like, yeah, fuck it. Who cares? And I was like, well, I cares, and I know you care. You're just pretending like you don't care because you're drunk. And you were like, come on, it's all good. And then I was like, dude, I'm worried about you, man. And you're like, I'm fine. Nobody cares about it anyway. And that's when it spiraled from there, because it was like, when you said I'm fine and nobody cares about it, that was you being like, well, here it comes, you know? And then we talked about how you felt about like that Kim was expecting too much of you, and that there was no outlet for you to let out all the pain that you were in. And then you talked about how like you were afraid that Kim was going to leave you, and how you're like, she was going to take the kids away. And I'm like, dude, Kim loves you. Like, she wants what's best for you. She knows that no matter what, like, what's best for you is to be able to be in your kids' lives, first of all. Second of all, you guys are best. You know, I'm like trying so hard to like just get you to see like your family life is not falling apart like you think it is. And then I brought up to you like, you're using drinking. Like, it's not, the drinking is a symptom of the problem. Like, what's going on in your life? And you're like, well, I'm an alcoholic. And I'm like, sure, you are, but that's not the problem. Like, the drinking is a problem, but the problem is deeper than the drinking, and you have to find that problem. And that's when I said to you, like, or you're going to quit drinking and you're going to find something else. And it's just going to be about finding something else for the rest of your life. And you're going to continue to feel unhappy. And that irritated you quite a bit, because your thing was like, Kim says the drinking is a problem. And so in that conversation, you were like latching on to like, it's almost like you weren't even accepting that the drinking was a problem. It was like you had only accepted that Kim said the drinking was a problem.
Right.
And so you were like that's what Kim says, you know, is the problem. And I'm like, dude, the drinking might be a problem because it's affecting other people's lives negatively, but I think there's a way deeper issue. You know, and I'm like, what are you unhappy about? And you just couldn't, like, we couldn't get past that point. It was just, we just kept hammering into that wall. Like, and we'd get steam too. It was like we would back up and we'd talk about like what's going on in your life, what's stressing you out. Is work stressing you out? There was a lot going on at work at that time. You were getting a lot of new responsibilities, not necessarily responsibilities you were very comfortable with. You were feeling like you were going to fail. And in the process of getting those new responsibilities, if you failed, you felt like that was going to be the end of that, and you were going to have to go out and find a new job. You were feeling like comedy was going nowhere. You were worried about how the podcast was doing. You were worried about how Kim thought of you. You were worried about the kids. It was just like all these things that you were worried about. And so, we'd peel back a little bit and we'd talk about like, okay, what's going on with the kid. Why are you stressed out about the kids? You know, and then it would just we'd like meander our way back to the point where you would say like, it's like I'm an alcoholic, you know, and then I'd be like, yeah, we've established that like 4 times, but what's making that? And we just never. And then that's you ended up hanging up on me. But the thing that I said about like my mom sleeping on the couch, my mom has mentioned before that like when she and my dad would be like arguing. When I was a kid, my parents used to argue quite a bit. They didn't get along super well. My mom would sleep on the couch. And she would say it was because my dad was snoring.
Oh.
So analogy-wise, what I wanted to say is, or what I was trying to get at, is like you've got a problem. And you're doing something to respond to the problem. But you're not actually saying what the real problem is. It's like my mom would sleep on the couch, and she said it was because my dad would snore. But the problem was my mom and dad were actually having arguing problems.
Sure.
It's like in your case, you were drinking. And the problem wasn't that you're an alcoholic, so you're drinking. The problem is there's something going on, and you're coping with it by drinking, and you're just saying that the drinking's a problem. It's like, dude, no. Like, the drinking is a problem, just like the sleeping on the couch was a problem, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not the problem.
Right. I got what you're saying.
And that's what I kept having to try to say to you. It's like, that it's a problem, dude. It's a symptom. It's like...
That makes sense, because I remember I was laying on the ground like halfway in the hall and halfway in our bedroom. And yeah, it almost, like when I think back on it, it feels like I was falling asleep. I don't know. Yeah, it's all...
You could have been.
But that doesn't mean that I didn't hang up the phone because I was, you know, refusing to like give ground either. Like I think that
I feel like give
especially
ground
at that time, because that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
Was that okay? So if I admit to the thing, I give ground, and then we're gonna have to do all of this new construction.
That's what you. I don't know that you mentioned it on that call, but that you made that part clear more than once, where you'd say like I'm just gonna stop drinking, and then I won't have these problems. The problems are still gonna be there if you don't look at why the drinking was happening, you know. And that's, I mean, to come full circle, that's, you seem infinitely happier now. And when something comes along and tries to like tilt you off the scale or tilt the scale or change the beat of the metronome a little bit, like fucking some of the stuff that's been happening in the news lately.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you cope with it so much better, you know? You talk
Yeah.
about it. And that was like, you just never talked about it. And I tried to like reciprocate or like show you that I was trying to reciprocate. It's like, dude, you do this for me, you know?
Oh.
It's like, I'm doing this for you because I love you, but also because I know you would do this for me. And I tried to like use that as an in to be able to be like, all right, man, like when I've had problems, like I'm sure you've heard the story. Like when I was having my anxiety, depression, panic attack issues, there's like 2 people that reached out to me ever. 3, actually. It was Chris, it was Matt Doima, and it was Caitlin. Those are the 3 people that ever reached out to me. And I talked to Chris every single day. He was the only person that I talked to every day.
Yeah.
At the time I was dating someone. Didn't even talk to her every day when I was having all these issues. But I talked to Chris every single day. And then you wrote a joke about kidnappers in Africa. And I was like so happy. I literally like told my family about this joke. This is such a fucking great joke, you guys.
That's right. We riffed hard.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I still tell people about that. Like when I tell that joke, how like I'm like that bit actually went on for like maybe an hour beyond that. Like that joke could be its own short film, the way that we like how you would get drunk and there was like a kidnapping shack. The way that you would get drunk and wake up in the morning like, oh man, who did I call last night? these kidnappers would wake up and be like, "Oh fuck, did I kidnap somebody last night?" It just went on and on and on.
And that's like, so like you, in that moment, you like helped me feel normal again, you know? And that was like all I wanted for you, was just like, let's bring you back to equilibrium so you can actually like look at what was going on.
And I feel like you declined so fast. Like, like it just happened so fast.
It was
from
like parabolic,
like the beginning of like even you guys meeting, like you took pictures obviously in the Power Ranger situation. And like when you would go to open mics, it wasn't, when you would go to Keller, it wasn't all the time. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but you just went downhill fast in your drinking.
I think I can't obviously speak to why that happened, but I would imagine that it was like there's always like a combination of stressors that like flip the switch, you know? And I wonder if like part of it was the work stuff, you know? Part of it was the fact that you had accepted all this new responsibility in your life outside of work. Now you're running a mic, now you're running a show, now you're running my show. Now, you know, there's a million things going on at Nordic, and somehow you had taken full responsibility for all of them and didn't accept help from other people. And it just like, it just got worse and worse.
And with the stuff between us, he didn't want to work. He didn't want to work his Monday through Friday job at all. Right. He wanted to just do all these other things. And it was hard trying to explain to him, like, but at the same time, we need to bring in money.
Right.
Like we can't live here, all of us, on just my income. So there was a lot of that fighting going on.
Well, and you're also like, in a way at that time, he's working like 90 hours a week because he's putting in all this time to make all this other stuff happen and trying to actualize his dreams. But he's also working 40 hours a week at his job.
Yeah.
And he's relied on very heavily at his job at the time. So when he comes home, he's already exhausted. And all he wants to do is relax.
Yeah.
But then he's all high tension again because he's got to deal with all this other shit, like fucking editing podcasts and doing fucking pictures for people. And who's the next person that's going to ask me to come take video of them or pictures of them, and I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to get paid dick for it, and not worried about it. Not literally get paid dick, although...
I mean, sometimes.
Yeah.
But another but like there's one other factor that like was like seemed way more innocent, that like, it seemed like such a background thing, but the fact that I got free beer from Nordic.
For sure.
So when you're in an environment where, because a lot of people associate like, I'm stressed out, I'm going to have a beer. When we started doing shows and we didn't have the help that we needed to do those shows, boom, just drink more.
Well, yeah, it's like in spike of anxiety, take a depressant. Yeah.
So then that carried from there, because I was like, well, what do I do when I get off of work and I go home and I'm having a stressful day? I drink.
Right.
I am doing that in multiple places now.
Right.
So now it's occupying a lot of space.
Right. You wake up stressed, you drink, you know? And I don't really talk to you about my drinking. I don't think I've gotten to the point where the quantity of beverages is seriously inhibiting my life or my health. But like, you know, I'll have a drink, but I don't have it until I'm already settled down for the evening. That's like my thing. It's like, I don't drink as a means of stress relief.
Right.
I drink as a means of casual, you know, and that's how I keep it casual. But just to say, like, you know, I've been in that, like, where a drink is a big time reward feeling.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel the slippery slope. It's very present, you know, like when you get into that, like when I would do like a weekend, you know, like at Comedy Corner or something, you get multiple free drinks a night for doing, and it's, you know, 2 nights in a row, 3 shows in a weekend. You're getting multiple free drinks. I mean, sometimes you get 4 free fucking drinks on a Saturday, you know?
Yeah.
There for 6 hours, so I'll have 4 drinks. And when I get home, it's like, well, I better have a couple more, you know? And it's like, that's how it goes. It just keeps.
Well, and you and I had like kind of gone back and forth in the past on like the amount of like when, and this, it's so like it's such a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
When White Claws came out and ease of drinking came into fold that I don't think people expected,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of looked like an energy drink, like it had kind of a Red Bull look to it.
They call it a seltzer.
And they call it a seltzer. So you're exactly. So there's like these oddly like people thinking that they're being ironic but not realizing. So like you and I had talked about how like I put back however many Trulies last week or White Claws last week, and then you would be like, "Oh, dude, I do the Trulies,"
Mm-hmm.
and like we were kind of like, I don't know if we were being ironic, but in the sense of like this is just a problem and we got to figure it out
for sure. And that's like, so weirdly, like when I knew I would say, and it was weird. It was like while you were going through what you were going through, like I could feel myself like on the edge of like having a problem. But I'm also watching like my best friend, like, I don't know. Fall apart is such a shitty way to
No,
put it.
but
No, that's completely
literally,
fair.
yeah.
And it's because of this thing that I'm like having a little bit of trouble stopping doing, you know? And it wasn't that I was having trouble stopping, because I wasn't trying to stop. It was that like I was just doing a lot of it. 4 Trulies every night, and sometimes 5, sometimes 6. While I'm sitting in bed playing video games. Like, this is not casual drinking anymore. This is like drinking to relax. This is, you know, and moving in with Caitlin made a huge difference for me on that, for sure. Because then, you know, like she's always there, you know? So like I'll have one, like she'll go to bed and I'll pour myself one, you know, and I'll just have a drink. But like switching from Trulies to drinking vodka, that made a difference, because vodka is pretty gross. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
It's like I'm not slugging back vodkas, you know?
Right.
I was slugging back Trulies for a while. And I know
I've heard that with other people too. It's just they were so easy to drink, and people would be like,
tastes like fucking bubbler.
Yeah, you're like, my 6-pack's already gone. Yeah.
Right. It's like, and that's so when the source becomes like an easier thing to consume, it's like the same thing when a fucking Netflix show comes out, you know?
Well, and you would make comments all the time like, I'm not drinking beer because it makes me feel full.
Oh, yep.
And White Claws wouldn't make you feel full.
Right, which means you could have more of them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yep.
It's like when Midnight Gospel came out, you know, it's just like you hammer 6 episodes because they're 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you tell somebody you're going to hammer 6 episodes of Game of Thrones, they're like, hey, dude, you have a problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and the thing, like, so, and I think like another reason why that shit is so dangerous is because you do it so often and it's so easy that you don't realize you're doing it, that you then go, well, if I'm not even noticing, I need to up the ante.
Yeah.
And so I started mixing vodka with the White Claws.
Oof, my goof, man.
And I got to it, so it got to the point where it was like, if it doesn't burn, then it's not working. So like, because when you brought that up, that whole like vodka doesn't go down as smooth, so it's kind of easier. That's great for normal people. But whenever we talk about substance on here, like somebody who is a
it's the
a
chasing
normie,
the dragon effect, right? Isn't it? I mean, in a way, it's like the burn is
well,
almost
and I
comforting.
mean the how stops mattering. It's the when.
Okay.
So like it doesn't matter how I get drunk. When can I get drunk? It doesn't matter how I get high.
Okay.
When can I get high? Like that's the really big switch that happens for people. So when you see people putting back handles of, you know, vodka or handles of whiskey or whatever, like they don't care. They don't care how they get to the point anymore. They just
It's when.
Yeah, they just know that. Okay, I've got it. I know that as soon as I put this thing
That's
back.
fucking super interesting.
Yeah,
And that's the switch.
for sure. So like,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it really like
So in my like
the taste never it really stopped bothering me at all.
So like not to like turn this back to myself, but like for instance, like I'm not like on a schedule of like up 9 o'clock I get to have a drink, you know.
Yeah.
But like when evening comes around, I think to myself, I'm gonna go make a drink, you know.
Yeah.
For you, was it like opportunity seeking, or was it like
Yeah. So
necessity?
every window that was possible was there was a schedule of, and I've said it on here before, but like I knew that if I consumed X amount 5 minutes from then, everything would be better. So
and I didn't realize this when we went on vacation to California. He told me this not terribly long ago, but it was like he wanted to just get to wherever we were planning on going to figure out if he could drink then.
And not only that, how long were we going to be there so that I could make sure that whatever I drank, I'd be so sober enough to drive by the time we needed to leave that thing. So it was like everything was stressful in the sense of like how I'm not going to be able to drink if we're going to go and do all this shit throughout the day. Like
and
that's what it turned into.
And it became, we would argue because I didn't feel comfortable driving out there.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an aggressive driver. And so Chris would drive. And so it was a lot of arguments because obviously he's going to be the driver. So he can only drink a certain amount. And even like when we went to Disneyland, he's like, can you drink at Disneyland? And I'm like, I don't think so. So I did all this research while we're in Disneyland to see if there was somewhere he could drink, and came to find out you have to put reservations in for this one bar that they have somewhere, and they had none available. So it's like, okay, well, when can we take a break, go back to our hotel so we can go to the bar and drink and then go back to Disneyland?
Man, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So it's like it was no longer about like finding time. It was about like making time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like,
man,
whew, I got a moment to breathe. So, or we don't have anything going on. You know, it'd be nice if we had a drink. It was where are the windows so that I can drink?
Oh man. And Kim, were you fully conscious at that moment? Like, oh, this is an issue, or was it
for a long time? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that like for you, if you were just like, oh, Chris is like,
well, it was
really trying to take advantage of this vacation, huh?
And it was like, okay, where's the nearest liquor store we can go to so we can get alcohol to put into our hotel room so I can drink 3 drinks, and then I'm going to go to the Comedy Store and watch a show, and they have a 2-drink minimum, so I have to have 2 drinks for sure. And it was like always watching him to see how much he could drink. And then there was concern like, okay, if he drinks this much, goes in a Uber or Lyft to the Comedy Store, how do I know he's going to get back?
Right. Which is a whole new scary piece to that whole.
Especially being in California, like
right,
with
where
2
you
kids.
Don't have.
Yeah.
There's who, I mean, you weren't there with him. You were at the hotel.
It was me with the 2 kids.
So it's like.
Yeah. And then it was like right when we'd get out, like we got to the airport. The first time we went to California, or one of the times, it was like right away. We went really early in the morning, and Chris was searching for the bar right away. Like, can I have a drink before we get on the plane? No, nothing's open. And it was always that. Like, okay, when we get on the plane, I know I can order a drink on the plane. So it was always, that's all it seemed like his focus was always on that.
Interesting.
And then come Universal, we knew we could drink there. So it was like, oh, we're going to go here and have a drink. And then we can go here and have a drink. And then this and this. Yeah. But we had to drive to Universal, so obviously Chris probably was thinking about how much he could drink while we were at Universal, because we would have to drive back.
Right.
Well, no, the first time we Ubered there.
Right, yeah.
Or Lyft. And then the second time, because we were flying out that night.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah, it was, yeah, everything, yeah. It becomes way, yeah, none of that stuff. And it's not that you don't taste it, but your brain associates it with a necessity.
Yeah. You're feeling.
In California, they didn't have White Claw or anything like that. So that was another thing. Chris was like, well, they don't have White Claws here.
Yeah. Because I
Dude,
thought that I
fucking
was
look
being.
at you now, though. I mean, how cool is this? Like,
Yeah.
dude, this is. First of all, that you can talk about this. I'm sure, like, I can see it on your face. You're feeling a little bit of shame right now. No reason to feel shame.
No.
Well,
I mean, this
it's
is-
just weird to.
Because you hear people going on vacation, they go to the airport and they're like, hey, can I have a drink and all that? But like looking back now, it's like, wow, really was on his mind constantly the whole
Yeah.
time, where I'm like, well, we're on vacation. He doesn't
Yeah.
have to work. Like, he's not getting drunk where he can't drive. And when he's like, I won't drive out there, he wasn't being mean to me like, well, it sucks that I have to drive the whole time.
Right.
Like, he was just like, the first time he was more like, come on, can you just take a chance and drive? And it wasn't because he wanted to drink. The first time we went out there, you weren't heavy in your addiction.
Right.
But the second time, it was just me and you. And you weren't pushy that time because we only had such a short period to be there.
Right.
But the third time, you were more like, come on, can't you drive? And then he knows that it makes me so anxious that it's not like you were mean about it. But I felt like it was more because you were hoping you could drink more from point A to point B.
To be fair, you did say that you were going to drive. So we do have to be completely honest in that
Well, and he's
regard.
like, if we're ever going to move there, like, because
Oh, yeah.
like we
Right.
always talked about wanting to move out there. He's like, you're going to have to drive eventually. And I'm like, well,
Okay,
but now,
I will, and then
now
you're-
that, now with all the things you hear about what's going on in Hollywood and COVID, I'm like, I'm not really interested in living in California anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, the main point that I'm like, all of that to
Yeah.
say, right? Everything has the like in the addiction world is, instead of people saying, "Oh, I've never driven drunk. I've never drank on the job. I've never like." Instead of saying those things to make it seem like you don't have a problem, you have to start saying yet. I haven't driven drunk yet.
I haven't got a
So you have
DWI
to-
yet.
You have to like accept that it's always a possibility. And I think in that regard, I mean, and this isn't like scared straight either, because most people are normal. Like addicts say normies because it doesn't like become life or death. And so like, I don't want people to think that like, because you drink, you are like 2 steps away from being an alcoholic.
Or like if you go on vacations and you go to the bar first, and I'm not saying anything bad about that.
There's some people that only drink when they go on vacation, which is like once or twice a year. So it's like these things that I say do not mean that you yourself are an addict. It's only if they take over. If it makes
if the act of consuming whatever it is you're addicted to becomes objective number one.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you start to become a danger to yourself or those around you, then and I mean, people don't, that's another weird thing, is that everyone's threshold is different as far as like what is considered danger.
Mm-hmm.
And danger is just like, I'm in danger of losing my job. That's a danger.
Yeah.
My
So,
my
like-
concern was he was always so intoxicated and the kids were here, and if something happened, his answer was always like, well, an ambulance would help. But you should be of sound mind if something's happening with the kids.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
So that's where I would always, that's where
Mine was a literal danger, but
Yeah.
for other people, like that danger does not always mean like actual
Physical harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's of consequence, and then therefore because
that's
like danger of losing your job, bills are still going to keep coming in. So you're in danger of losing your home. Like there's it's relative.
Your health.
There we go. That's what I was looking.
Too.
So yeah, absolutely. You're in danger of getting pancreatitis. You're in danger of
Having liver issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're in danger of going to a Nickelback show. You are.
Don't
I mean,
say
look
that.
at this photograph.
2020. They're coming back for sure.
Yeah.
I hope so. I still okay, not to be all jokey, but this is not a joke, so
Yeah.
just fucking buckle up. I think Creed could become the most popular band in the world again if they just did covers of like NSYNC and Justin Bieber and Backstreet Boys songs.
Okay.
Because Scott Stapp, as horrible as he is, has the funniest voice ever.
Yeah.
And I think they would, like, can you imagine them singing Bye, Bye, Bye?
Yeah, I can actually.
Right. and in your mind, you're like, come on. So to your point of, I hope Creed just does a revival album. And it's just all covers of like.
That'd be beautiful.
Like Whitney Houston covers.
But anyways.
Yeah. So I do have, I guess, more questions about how because we haven't really, I guess I haven't had
No, that's the other shitty thing is that like COVID hit, so we didn't get to actually like.
Well, and the thing was you were a part of the big night, which was, scary.
Yeah.
And then like with everything happened with that, and so you were kind of a big part. Well, not like you were big, but you were in part of what was like it was all crumbling down around us.
Yeah, it was really scary.
Yeah,
it was tough. For the two of you, like when was, I mean, obviously treatment, and prior to treatment, you know your inpatient stuff, but following treatment, like when was the aha moment for like the two of you where you were like, oh shit, this is like under control. Like I got this.
Oh, we try not to
think about it. Saying that it's under control.
Yeah. Try because.
Oh, not. I guess that's not maybe what I mean. It's just like that moment when you're like,
oh, like where trust
like
is reestablished.
Yeah, where like life felt normal. You're like, fuck yeah, like look at this, I'm killing it right now. You know, like that feel. Have you had that like prideful feeling?
Maybe a couple weeks after. I don't know. It's a good question. I mean.
There was
it like while he was did it ever occur to you like while he was in treatment?
A little bit, yeah. I think I was scared of how he would be outside, so I didn't want to be like, okay, he's doing really, really well, so this is it, he's good, because that sounds so shitty, but he also wasn't completely honest with me when he was on the inpatient unit. Like I didn't know that he was thinking about coming back and drinking the whole time, because it seemed like when he was there he was ready to go to his next step of getting treatment and getting sober. So
you're talking about in the hospital? Yeah.
When you're in the inpatient unit at the hospital, you weren't 100% honest with me how you were feeling about alcohol at that time. So then when he was in treatment, I always was like, well, like, and I was waiting for him to have his aha moment there, you know, because a lot of times when we would talk on the phone, it would be a lot of, oh, they're talking about faith, they're doing this and that. And it's like, did you get anything out of anything today? Not really. And it's like, oh, shit. Yeah. So he's not, all he's doing is he's there, he's sleeping, taking meds, getting food, and going to these groups. He's not really getting anything out of when's that moment going to happen? And it was a speaker, right? And you had some speaker. No, that movie you watched with the basketball player, football player?
No. The, you're thinking of
the Chris.
No. Neither of those things. You're thinking of the Pleasure Unwoven.
Oh, that when he watched that video and there was all these like scientific like what happens in your brain, and that was his like he called me. He's like, I understand it, like it makes sense. And then he like went into this big old speech, and I was like, wow, okay. All right.
That's so cool.
And then the more he would talk to me on the phone, like, well, yeah, your brain does this and this and this. And it's like, okay, that's how Chris needs to understand things. Like, he's not going to understand someone being like, you know, I prayed and this happened for me. Chris needed some scientific.
Divine intervention isn't going to be the answer. It's like you need that scientific, that hard evidence of like, wow.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So then when he started doing that, I'm like, oh, okay. He had that aha moment. Yeah. Like I was just waiting for that. 'Cause it's like, if he doesn't have that while he's in treatment, is he just going to go, well, I just spent 28 days and I didn't get anything out of it. Yeah. And that's
which I'm sure was scary until like that moment. Yeah. And then you were like, fucking on cloud nine.
But then, when you come out, you're like, okay, my worry was, how well is he going to deal with real world stress again? Because I sugarcoated everything on the phone with him. Yeah. Like I wouldn't be honest what was going on here and how I was struggling here with 2 kids getting sick, COVID happening, my job, like things changing at my work and everything going on. And like having to make sure the kids were like getting to school and like making sure like his parents are fantastic, but like, okay, are they going to be where they need to be? Is your mom going to be able to get them to school? All these things I like was just like, no, don't worry about it. You're in treatment, which I wanted him to feel that way, but I didn't let him have any real world stress while he was there.
Yeah.
And then one night he's like, what's going on? And I just like lost it. I'm like, Landon's been sick. He was throwing up. Layla has strep. Yeah, she got strep.
Yep.
And then COVID and all this. And so I was like, okay, now I'm taking him out of treatment. He's going to see, like, when the first stuff was going on with COVID and schools got shut down, you would drive and it felt like a ghost town everywhere. Yeah. Nobody was on the road.
Right.
No one was going anywhere.
Right.
Grocery stores were completely empty of everything. It was scary.
Well,
it was very like.
Remember, I hate to circle back, but so this guy that I was in treatment with did this family program where so essentially it's like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, but it's with people who are sober. So like there's a few addicts and then the family members of addicts who are at that facility. And so they give them time to kind of ask questions, things that they can't ask their family member or significant other or whatever, because they feel like what happens if I ask the wrong thing, and like they could just
so it's like
very candidly
ask somebody else who is going through a similar yeah.
And the first day back he was like, I hate to say this, but he was like, our women are going through so much. I can't believe that any of these ladies are staying with their husbands. Like, it's insane. So like he just couldn't wrap his head around it. And then he was like, she's not telling me any of this stuff. I was like, they're probably holding back. And so we were like, okay, we have to call them and say, hey, I am making headway now. So I want you to start to tell me things. If I feel like I can't handle it, I'll let you know. But you need to know that I'm going to come out in the real world again. So like you can start to say these things. And then that's that night when you finally started to do those things.
I was like, it's been hard.
But like him going through that was like, because I wouldn't have known. Like you were saying, you were keeping all that stuff in.
And it was hard to going to work and dealing with like on a regular basis, even like before Chris went to treatment, I would deal with patients that would come in who are under the influence, and we have to work with the families, and they might not even be coming in suicidal, but they're very drunk and they're drunk all the time. And families would be like, yeah, they're killing themselves by drinking, and you're not going to put them in a treatment, or you're not going to put them in the hospital. It's like, no, like I can't put somebody into treatment.
Right.
And like, I would get so angry at myself for saying that, because I want him to go to, I wanted him to go to treatment, I want him. And so then when he was in treatment and I would be dealing with that, and it's like, yeah, I know. I can't say I know personally. It's like, it's very frustrating. I get that. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard having those kind of patients while Chris was in treatment, because it's like,
yeah,
this could have been Chris.
Right. Man, that's crazy. I didn't know that like you guys had, I mean, obviously I assumed that things were, and I know that you were talking to Caitlin a little bit while things were going on. And
I like to put on the strong front for everybody. I've always been like that.
I know you do.
But I wanted people to be like, I got this. I got
You're
this under
good
control.
At it, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
But finally, like,
so is he.
Yeah. I know.
It's part of the
so
fucking
finally
problem,
it was pal. Everyone, and people know, like, how are you doing with the kids? How are you doing with this? Do you want me to take you out for coffee? Do you need this? And it's like, no, I'm fine. And in my head, like, there were days I laid while the kids were in school. Yeah. And I'd lay in bed all day. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, now the kids are going to come home. I got to look like I was doing something so the kids don't think mom's not okay.
Right.
Because we're trying to get dad better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there would be these big moments that made me, I mean, at one point I thought I was going to leave treatment early because I was like, I fucking nailed it, Dad. And then the underlying thing, though, was that people kept talking about how they relapsed. Like, there was a guy that I was there with who was like, oh, I know I'm going to relapse as soon as I leave. And so he ended up leaving early, and I have no idea what happened to him. Like,
what the fuck?
So, yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are these people that you're literally living with them, and they're having to be the most vulnerable that they might have ever been to another man in their life.
Right.
And you're seeing like all of these really deep things, and then just it means nothing. I mean, so there would be like times where it's like, I know the thing, I just don't know what the other thing is, because apparently everyone's just fucking relapsing out there. So it was just fucking so like.
I remember when you first got out and we talked, like the big thing that you talked about was like you finally understood like why relapse happens, and that was like, I remember you being so like, it was like so you were so obviously enlightened by what you had learned, and that was like, I mean, I was like, yeah, this is the real fucking deal. Like, you're good. Like, I it wasn't that I didn't believe in you. It was that I wasn't sure that you could believe in you.
Yes.
Well, it's like if somebody says, some of the most passionate people are cancer survivors. Mm-hmm. And even though they tell you, because they're trying to be strong for you, and they say, we're gonna beat this thing.
Yeah.
You know that there's a part of it that's out of their control. Mm-hmm. And that's so fucking hard to hear. And I could tell, like, there were family members, there were friends that, like, you want to know that that's okay, but they also didn't know how bad things were.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, how are we supposed to actually know?
Right.
Because it was so, like, masked before. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's that weird thing that's like out of your control, that you want people to be confident in these new things that you've learned. And I think that's why a lot of addicts like try to spit out all this knowledge, because it's like, hey, guess what? I'm not going to relapse because of this and this and this and this. And you can believe me, and everything's going to be okay. And like, it's this hyper vigilant thing that people either get irritated with, or just you're pushing it so hard that now I kind of don't know if you're going to make it or not.
I like what you were saying before. Let's rewind a little bit when you were talking about him not believing in himself.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like when he went to the hospital and was first started treatment, his self-confidence in himself was so low. Yeah. But he's such a determined individual. So if it's like, if you can find that determination in getting better, then hopefully your confidence in yourself will come back, because he was so low. But when he has his mindset on something, he'll do it. He'll push himself.
Right.
Like if it's something he desires. Yes. But it was, you could see. And we talk about this all the time, how like he just looks more relaxed than he did before. Like his presence is completely different now than when he was in his highest usage.
Was it after after you were an inpatient and before?
Oh, like that limbo area?
When you came and did a set?
Yeah.
He did do it, yeah.
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 And you were like really nervous to get on stage and whatever. But I started crying when I saw you, like hard. I went to the bathroom and just like bawled in the fucking shitter. People were like, man, that's a tough one in there, eh? But because like I was like, holy shit, I saw Chris, and I was like you looked like different, like you looked like physically different, like healthier. You know, I was like, holy fuck, like this is. It's working, you know. Like
at that point, it was like I was like a rescue dog that
you just got all the ticks removed.
You got into the foster home.
Exactly, I was just brought to the foster home,
but you haven't gotten your forever home yet.
Because there's all these new smells. There's all these where do I go and hide? Like,
well, because
and you're in a place where you were doing a lot of your using.
Yeah. When I knew you weren't there yet, but it was like this.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like when you see like a little kid like do something like amazing, you know, and you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Is that what they're going to be like? Like, you know what I mean? Like this is like, oh shit, like this is incredible. And then when you first got out, the moment, I don't mean to like, you know, but my like aha moment was when the family came over. And when you guys all just came over to me and Caitlin's, and we just hung out, and everything was super fucking normal.
Yeah.
We just chatted. We talked for like hours.
Yeah.
We just dicked around.
Games.
Yep.
Why did we go over there in the first place?
Because we missed them, and we're like, Well, you know
But
what?
like, were we out? I forget.
We went to Home Depot to get my pineapple plant.
Oh yeah.
And,
And
you
we're
guys
like,
literally
we're going to go
stopped
see their
by
new
and
place.
then-
And I'm like, I wonder if they'll let us in. Maybe we can talk through the window. And you guys were like, come on in. And then we had those delicious chicken nuggets and French
Yeah.
fries. And
It was. I literally was
Oh
like.
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
I miss meat.
you were there for fucking pussy. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't know. You guys. I think you got there at like 8:00, if I recall correctly. It was like
Oh,
8
Yeah,
yeah,
it
o'clock,
was
8:15,
late.
something.
Yeah.
But you didn't leave till like 11:45.
Yeah.
It was fucking late
Yeah,
when you guys
yeah.
left. But I remember like sitting on the couch, and I'm sitting on the couch, and you're sitting in the chair, and we were like BSing, like hardcore BSing. But it was like how our conversations will go. Like we go into full BS mode, and then one of us says something that like makes the other person think a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we're just down into like, deep shit talking time, you know? And then it's like back into the
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we had like 50 of those fucking moments. And I just remember like when you guys left, like I just looked at Caitlin and I was like, I mean, that was Chris. That was Chris, you know? That was like I was so fucking proud of you. I mean, I still am.
Yeah.
And I was right when you got out. But like it was that moment I was like, fucking A. Like Chris is back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It was the coolest fucking feeling. I'm about to start crying, dude. It
I was
like,
gonna say it's really weird. Like, I don't know. I'm more.
But his
it's-
mom would say that. That's my Chris.
yeah.
She would have those
Yeah.
moments where we would visit and we'd be in the car on the way home. She'd be like, that's my Chris.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
such a cool thing, like to just like watch, because it was so scary, dude. And then like, it was like it became nostalgic so fast. That was the hardest part about it. It was like you would long for the old times that were like 6 fucking months ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
3 months ago, 2 weeks ago. You know, you're like, how is this happening? And it's like you're like grasping at straws. Like, dude, I just want to help him, but he doesn't want to help himself. And then like you helped yourself. And then it was like that's what it took. It took you helping you for it to finally be like. It was like I had like it's just like old times moment, and it was like 3 months ago we were having just like old times moments, you know. And it's such a weird concept because like when you hear that you think like, man, I miss the old days.
Yeah.
It's like I'm talking about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
When I say that,
Yeah.
you know? But it was like I got to have. I don't know. It was just really special.
Yeah.
And I was upset at you. You know? And I like couldn't not be. I tried so hard not to be. But it was almost like because you gave up on you, like you also gave up on me. And I was like, I didn't want to make it about me, but I couldn't not. I was like, fucking A, like, am I a bad friend? Like, can I not handle shit like this? Like, what if this happens to someone else? Like, how do I separate myself from this so that I don't, like, and it spiraled, you know? And then, I don't know. We just, look at us now.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
just talk about
Just
our
a bunch of
cranks and
bros
everything.
with
Yeah.
podcasts.
Well, it's
now.
super. That's a lucky thing because I say it on here all the time. Is like sobriety doesn't mean that everything's okay.
No.
There are still things that happened that no matter how positive your outlook on the future is, that doesn't mean that somebody's going to be able to just get over the fact, even though addiction is a disease of choice, as they say, because you choose to use it first,
Yeah.
but you have no choice over how your brain is going to
Right.
log that information.
Right.
Shit, how was I going to word that?
The thing is like things that you still did and people you hurt while you were using.
Oh,
you can't-
you're the vehicle of the disease. So
Yeah.
before
The host.
people know what it is, all they know is that you were the one
Yeah.
that was spreading this
Yeah.
thing, and,
Yeah.
it was negatively affecting people.
Right. And not to like circle back too far, but like what you had just said about like, you know, it's like no matter your outlook, it's like, and that's part of the value of like living in the now. You know, it's like you need to appreciate what's happening right now, because like right now you're winning, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like every second that you continue on this journey, it's like you're succeeding in every single moment. And that's like, whether it's, you know, weight loss, or it's, you know, recovering from addiction, or it's like being a good student, or whatever it is, it's like, it reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen the movie Kung Fu Panda,
Mm-hmm.
but
Is that a joke? Because
I know, I'm
of
sorry.
course I've seen.
So the most powerful quote maybe in any children's movie I've ever seen comes from that movie. And it's so subtle that you're like, holy fuck. But it's when the master Fishu, or whatever, the turtle, the tortoise. Oogway, yeah. When Master Oogway says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That is why they call it the present.
Oh, yeah.
Like that stuck with me ever since. I remember watching that and being like, oh, fuck. Like, living the right now. Because it's like, you know.
Yeah.
It's like Tom Haverford, dude. Fucking treat yourself. You are killing it right now.
Yourself.
And, like, you can't shy away from that. Like, you have to embrace the fact that, like, success is moment by moment. And, like, you're doing it, you know?
I don't know if this is the right word. I don't know that I've ever used this word. But the duality of being a person that, like, championed themselves as somebody who would take in those that I thought I could help, if only to be somebody that there was zero judgment. Like the duality of, like, recognizing that I think I'm, like, this podcast, like, doing this one more and more and feeling that it has so much more importance to it is because there is a different person. There is this person who was broken, and I am, like, if I'm going to be somebody who says this is a house of no judgment, then I have to be able to apply that. And the best way to do that, like, in kind of real time, is I am both this person who has no judgment, but was somebody who, like, desperately needed to have that, like, to stop making excuses for why it doesn't matter that I'm not getting help because I'm helping this X amount of people.
Yeah. Okay. So the duality of living on the side of being open and willing and accepting of all people, but then also the hardcore judgment of yourself and the inability to open up to those very same people is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. And so it's the reason why if people have perceived me as, like, it looks like I'm, like, taking advantage of this, it's more that I'm saying I'm not just somebody who is open to this stuff. I am somebody who needs this stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's the duality.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Recognizing that you can facilitate the needs of others, but also that, like, this is a need of yours. You know? Like, you need to do this. That's what, like, I mean, so I have a friend who listens to our podcast.
What's that one called?
Dude, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
Oh, that's pretty dope. So I have a friend who listens to.
Does it air every Tuesday?
Dude, absolutely.
You guys are so stupid.
So I have a friend who listens to that and then happened to catch an episode of Not So, and and was like, bro. And I was like, yeah, I know. And they're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, that is very impressive. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, say more, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, I mean, you watch the Dude Absolutely, and, like,
Oh, you're silly
fucking
and
around.
yeah.
But, like, holy cow, he's a deep guy. Like, yeah, I know.
It's got pretty
It's
deep
like, this
cavities.
is like, you need that.
Yeah.
You know, like, you need the depth, because the depth, like, as far as you're willing to extend, you need to be able to reach back just as far. You know, it's like you can stretch your you can stretch yourself out as much as you want, but you know.
Yeah. Seth, a memory popped up on my timeline of this moment that I filmed on my phone. Seth Rogen and Jerry Seinfeld talking to each other, and then we'll wrap
Comedians
this
in
up.
Cars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Seth Rogen is talking about how when he'll make an inappropriate joke and somebody looks at him as though he doesn't know that he just made an inappropriate joke.
Yeah.
The concept that, they obviously don't realize how inappropriate they're being right now.
Right.
It's like, no, I know. And I want you to know that I can be totally normal and say the wildest shit you've ever heard at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow. Being able to say this goofy shit does not mean that we are incapable of truly understanding how important it is to self-care and mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we're talking about movie quotes, I thought you were gonna. Well, you talked
If
about.
I'm a bird, you're a bird.
No, it's from The Lorax,
Okay.
which is a fantastic movie.
Oh,
You ready for this one?
I have a theory about the Lorax. Keep going.
I am the Lorax.
it is her dad, by the way.
It is, yeah. I am the Lorax. I speak of that, not that one. Unless someone like
that
you,
was funny, Kim. Well done.
unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is gonna get better. It's not.
Wow.
So I'm gonna just
Fucking Lorax.
Lorax
Dropping a Seuss
dropping
bomb
a
over here.
really good quote because it's true.
Yeah.
In regards to unless you want yourself to get better, it really
It won't get better. Right.
So.
Wow. That
But
was
he is a
Seuss
Lorax
bomb.
and he speaks for the trees as well.
Right.
But all right.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, anything else you'd like to impart on because that is an aspect. We're trying to have more people on who are on the other side of things.
Okay. Yeah.
When it comes to, and it feels so weird to say this because you were on the front line, like, is there any advice that you have to people when they, against their better judgment, are kind of, and that's not even the right phrasing either. I don't know how to say this.
Advice to people who are close to people who are going through stuff like
Yes.
this? Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, one, I'm not a professional, you know, and like that was the hardest thing for me to get through my head when all this was going on. It was like, I'm not paid to do this. I didn't go to school for how to do this. It's like, if you don't try, that's what will hurt the most after all of this. It's like, just try, you know, be open. And then the other thing that I would say, like, advice-wise, is, like, don't pity. Because, like, pity breeds shame. And shame is not, like, how you breed success.
Yeah.
Like, rather than... I struggled with that in the beginning. And... when things really started ramping up, it was like I pitied you, you know, and it was like it didn't make you better, and it didn't make me better. It didn't make me feel any better about the way that I was communicating with you. It was like doing my best to empower you, even though you weren't accepting it, was the most. That was I felt like I was doing honest. I was doing you honest by trying to empower you and speak truth. Like, telling you, like, dude, there's something else going on. You know, it's like to say those things. It's like it was really hard at first to not just like listen to what you were saying and just like, yeah, man, I totally get where you're coming from. Like, I feel you on this. You know, it's like I wasn't having any of that by the end. You know, and I'm not sure that I did it right. I don't know. I don't know if there was something I could have done differently. But as somebody who was like on the outside, like trying my best to cope with something that I was completely out of my control. You know, it's like the only thing I could control was like not carrying pity and shame around with me. Shame in like the way I was doing it, like the way I was trying to help you, but also like shame of like, or not, but also the pity of like poor Chris, you know?
Yeah. Well, an important thing is there's only so much rope to the lifeline until you end up in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to trying to help people in addiction, and that sucks to say because we're lucky that we're still friends after all this shit, but there are times when your well-being is just as much in danger as the person that you care about. And so you do, and these are really fucking hard times. And this is like the professional guidance is you do have to cut ties with these people sometimes. And it doesn't matter how much you care about them. And you just have to hope that they're going to be able to get the help that they need. And you've given all that you can. And if you don't get away from it, it can become dangerous for yourself as well.
For sure. For sure. Well, I don't know as far as I don't have anything really to say to wrap up other than thanks for having me on.
No,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for coming
And
on.
Yeah, of course. And like,
thank you for sticking around.
I don't know, dude. Like one last thing is like, I'm proud of both of you,
Heck,
Like-
I'm proud of you.
Hey, thanks. But like, honestly, no deflecting. For real, I'm proud of both of you guys. Like you for all the hard work that you put in and like kind of rebuilding your self-image, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to. Sometimes like we were talking about with the snow globe. It's like it's like you spent this whole time in your life like chiseling away at this marble, right? And you like had this sculpture of yourself, and then like partway through, somebody was like, "Hey, I got a way better rock hammer," and you're like, "All right," and then you grab that rock hammer, and it was like an automatic rock hammer, and it was like out of control and just started chipping away at this fucking sculpture, and it ruined the sculpture, and then the sculpture fell on the ground, it broke everywhere. And
Wet glitter and glass.
And then you went to treatment, and they were like, "Hey, here's a new piece of marble."
Ooh.
I like that.
And you're like, "All right, let's fucking try this one more time."
Yeah.
That's very good.
And it's working, dude.
Yeah.
You're beautiful. You're a beautiful boy.
I was going to say he's really chiseled.
He is.
Ugh.
He is. And Kim, like, for everything that you did to, like, keep your family afloat and be as strong as you've been.
Don't make me
And
cry,
be so
Ro.
supportive and be so supportive of him. And also to, like, have so much grace. Like, you gave so much grace during that time. It's like you were really quite amazing. So be proud of yourself for that too, because like you guys are very special people, and listeners, these are fucking very special. You guys are very lucky that they're willing to expose these hard truths about their lives to you guys, because this is not everyday shit. These are incredible folks. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you for
It's a
coming.
pleasure.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
never
Alex.
can end it
That's
right.
okay. You want me to just do it?
Yeah. And with that we will pass.
You did it. Do you want to do it without a question mark?
And with that we will pass.